Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 10th day of June 2020. Well, they're still saying ridiculous things at the White House and on some news networks, if you want to call them that, about the 75-year-old man. And I think even Stephen talked about it last night on the Late Show, and or a Late Show, I should say. And it was nice to see him push back a little bit against Chris Wallace. And it's the strangest thing for me to talk about the President of the United States now as if he is competent enough to even be considered as such, because I don't believe that he is, at least not from what it looks like to me. In a variety of ways. And so to even have a conversation like that just seems strange. You know, oh, the president wants to do this, and the president, no, the president's being told what to do. It's clear. He's being told what to do by somebody out of this country. So no, so it's like, so to even have a conversation like we normally have about a president just seems weird to me. I can't, it's weird. I can't do it. I can't have it. I can't have that conversation at all. The idea of discussing his policies doesn't have any. I mean, come on, they're not his. They're somebody else's. Somebody whoever wants to take control of this country. So it's just odd. And to listen to the things that are coming out of their mouths now about this 75-year-old man in Buffalo who's still in the hospital after what police did to him. No. They're shredding his dignity. They're shredding his reputation. He's a 75-year-old man, a peace activist. Please understand what they're doing here. So I don't know. They don't learn. And every time they open their mouths, I said this on the other video, it just gets worse and worse and worse, doesn't it? I guess I heard that the fencing's going to come down today around Lafayette Park, maybe, or around, I don't know if it's going to come down around the whole perimeter or what, but I guess they're going to start to take it down. Maybe. It's what I read yesterday. We'll see. Today could be a whole new day, though, isn't it? We just don't know. So I don't know. We'll see. Let me get my notes up on the screen in case I pull any cards that sort of align with anything today. We have a 1 energy today for the day, given that it's the 10th. That reduces to 1. And so we really do need to allow a new path to take hold here today. Allow something new to form here, or to strengthen what's begun, I think. Again, I think that if we're not paying attention to what's really going on here, then we need to, and hear the vitriol in the voice of the current administration against the people. It's sad. It's almost like, well, here's what they do. Okay, they don't live in the truth of it. They live in the branding of it. And so they just tell us what they want us to view it as. Oh, it's this. Now, all the facts show it's not anything of the kind, but it doesn't matter. Facts don't matter to them. They simply tell you what they want you to hear. And so when you're listening to what they're saying, you have to view it from that standpoint. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up in something that isn't even true and will likely be to your detriment. So please use that level of discernment whenever you hear anything out of the government right now. It's just not even reflective of anything true, especially when it's about a 75-year-old man still in the hospital trying to heal from the brain injury he now has. Hopefully that will all settle down and he will be fine, but we don't know. And they're just going to, because he's 75. It's not, brain, you hit your head at any age. It's not a good thing. But when you're older, I don't know. And then I read he's fighting cancer or has fought cancer or something. It's like, come on, people. Can't you just be nice? Can't you just be kind? Apparently not. So Anyhow, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. If this is your first time here, welcome. I take the 13th card each time for randomness sake, because I just don't want to influence any of it. Normal readings, I don't do that. I just lay them out. But for here, I do it randomly. So let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. If we need more, we'll take them. Otherwise, we'll move on to the Elder Futhark rune, and then we'll close out with the Geomancy rune. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, as typical now, I pull a lot of major cards for the readings. This is the 17th card of the Major Arcana, the Star. Wishing upon a star is sort of the meme for that, if you will. It's our hopes and our wishes and our dreams, creating something new. Again, we're in a one energy day, so why not? Let's do the next card. Well, we have the Hangman. You know, we're in a 22 year. This is the 12th card of the Major Arcana. This is alignment and soul presence. Surrender also. But surrender to source. Surrender to the higher self. Let go of the ego. Now is a very, I wrote this book called Shifting Perceptions, and it's my most recent book that I published. And essentially, what that is, there's some discussion, of course, about what I'm talking about, obviously, but there's also there's some affirmations to do. There's also some, because here's the thing about affirmations: when you repeat something over and over and over again, it trains your brain to believe it, basically. And what you're doing by doing that is the kinds of affirmations I have in there. What you're trying to do is to convince yourself that you're not the ego, that you're actually the higher self. Because the greatest aspect of this whole experience is the soul having it. All right. It isn't the body. It isn't the personality. It isn't the ego. It's the soul entering into this physical experience to experience life in tangible form. So this is a soul-based experience. As much as we don't understand that, as much as we might not connect with it, that's the truth of it. And if we start saying that to ourselves, then suddenly we're going to raise the frequency enough to where we actually align into it. And it's like, oh, that's what this is. Okay? People who meditate find that. People who focus their attention on this find it, because it's there. It's our reality. It's who we are. And so the rest of it then is just little meditations having to do with specific things that I think we need to do. Some of it's governed on the type of interactions that we have, but where we can lose that focus, that higher self focus, and shift back into ego, we have to stop that shift from happening now. Think about if we did that and where we would be, right? So that's the whole point of writing that book. I just felt like, I've been talking about this for so long that we really need to, if we just had maybe a starting point, and that's really all it is. You can take the affirmations, you can take the meditations, create your own. It just gives you a springboard into it anyway. There's a link below the video here if you want to buy that. But just know that that's what it's about. And the reason I wrote it, we're in this 22 year of profound change, but it's profound change that's soul level. It's on a soul level. It's soul based, where higher self is coming in and say, okay, we've messed around long enough here. It's why this is the protests are happening, because higher self is coming in and saying no more to the dark forces. All right. So that's what we're experiencing here. And what I was just trying to do with that book is just sort of give people a jumping off point to start shifting your perception, basically, into a higher self focus. And whether you use what I say in there, the affirmations and the meditations, the visualizations. If you use them exactly, that's fine, but you don't have to. If you take off, there's a couple of them in there where you're really visualizing, moving into another place, right? and shifting your attention into another reality. And so, that could be anything for you. So use it as just a maybe a template, even just to get yourself thinking along those lines. Let's see if we draw a third major card here. 8, 9, 10, as I throw them about. Well, we have the Page of Swords. That's a message. Perception, changing perceptions, moving out of deception and into the light. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to have this arranged this way. When I lay things down, I usually have a significator or the thing that the reading kind of surrounds. You could call it also the primary influencer of the reading, maybe, or the focal point. I kind of view them in a yod fashion, which is an aspect pattern in astrology, where you've got 3 planets or planetary bodies. You've got the point, which is the focal point, and that's the one that nobody really understands too well. But the other 2 are in sextile with one another, and so they're in harmony. And so they're basically working together to shore up the focal point. So that's kind of how I do these readings, because they're essentially 3-card readings, although we can add more. But basically how I'm going to do this today is I'm going to have the major cards be the focal point. And then this one's going to be the one that we're influencing. So we're going to have higher self influencing the message today. So let's go ahead, though, and talk about... well, let's talk about the Page of Swords first, and discuss that there's actually a message that's going to take place today, or some new awareness, or a new perception is going to take hold. But typically, it doesn't come from within. Typically, when you're talking about a page, although it can, but typically it's talking about a messenger coming in, because the page is also, it's the student, it's undeveloped potential, but it's also known as a message. So sometimes, depending on what it's paired with, you could even indicate either the birth of a child or a pregnancy. So we're talking about the message that's coming through today, and it's going to actually come through from higher self. So he's leaning into the future, even though he's with an eye to the past. So we have something in the future, a message in the future, or an awareness in the future that's going to impact past relations with others. We see movement. It even feels like the ground, excuse me, is moving underneath his feet. Although the sword is the air element, not the earth element. But you will see other elements contained within these cards. So here we have the ground is almost moving underneath his feet, or at least has the appearance of it. So things are shifting rapidly right now. Okay, that's what this card really suggests. You can see over here. The tree is blowing, and it's not a slight breeze either. You can really see that I live in Central Oregon, and you have high winds all the time. So I mean, it's never not windy here. Well, I shouldn't say that. You could have a few minutes where it's not, but things calm down. But then it just picks right up again. I mean, lately, we've been having like anytime we put something up like a greenhouse, it's usually in 15-mile-an-hour winds, because we've waited and waited and waited. We can't wait anymore, so we got to do it now. And so it's usually in 15-mile-an-hour winds. That's just what we do. I don't know why. It just ends up that way. It's not that we plan it, right? But you can see things are happening swiftly in this. You see the dark clouds are dissipating. You can see some of the whiteness is coming back to that one. So some clarity is returning. The darker the clouds, the more deception is going on. And here you're starting to see that lighten up a little bit with this new awareness coming in. So where is it coming from? It's coming from spirit. As the 17th card of the major arcana, we have a 8 energy and 8 numerology. So we're talking about a higher self type of strength and leadership. Commanding the elements here, commanding your whole existence here. We're not wishing upon a star. We're manifesting our hopes and dreams. I mean, that's really what this is. In other words, if you think of it from the standpoint of wishing upon a star, then you're thinking about it from the standpoint of waiting for something to happen. When we're manifesting everything that's happening, as soon as we connect with that, as we shift perception to that, then we understand that what's happening here is we're manifesting our reality. We're manifesting our hopes and dreams, not wishing for them to happen, but we're doing it. And so if we don't like what's going on in our life, we need to look at how are we contributing to that. If we want change, are we eventually just going home and letting go of that purpose, going back to the way things were because, okay, it's not happening, so let's just go? Or do we hang in there because it means that much? And that's what this is really saying here, especially given its 8 energy. The goddess is nude, denoting purity of expression. She's nurturing the land from the waters of spirit, and she's nurturing our emotions, again, with the water of spirit. Renewing our commitment to our whole shared experience here. The operative words being shared experience. When you shift perception, you see, you don't see people as the other anymore. You see everybody as the collective consciousness of the expression of source resonance of the creator into form, because that's what each one of us is. They get the whole patriarchal expression of, oh, we're God's children. Well, okay, sure. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the power of creation, because we do. We're simply aspects of the creator. If you want to call us its children, well, fine. But we're not separate from the creator. We're eventually, if you believe as I do, if you view it more as the great mother, we're resting in the great mother's breath right now. And when she's ready, she'll breathe us back in. Do it all over again, right? I mean, that takes gazillions and gazillions of years, obviously, because we've been doing this for a really long time. But the point is that we're all part of that. We're not separate from it. That's the reason why we have to raise the frequency during this time of ascension and know that this is true. And once you do, it's going to be really tough to look at somebody as the enemy when they're the other side of self. Because if you think about all that we do to come into form, we create the theme that we want to have here. We decide on that. We decide who's going to populate it. It's all in soul agreements. So if someone is in your life that's upsetting you, well, you put them there. You agreed to that. You agreed to that struggle so that you could learn something. Maybe you're not the one learning something. Maybe that difficult person having you in their life is offering them something. But trust me, you're both getting something out of it. But if we continue to see those people as the other instead of the other side of self, we're never going to learn the message we need to learn or the lesson we need to learn. All right? We're not going to hear the voice of spirit. We're only going to hear the result of the voice of ego. All right? So how do we do that? We align in source presence. It's the 3 energy, mind, body, spirit alignment. The hangman is about surrender, but it's not surrender to ego. It's surrender to source. You can see the light of source around his head. Higher self informing this whole thing. He's engaging in 3 levels of triplicity. You have the gallows pole, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you have a system, you have 3 of those, you have some ending there, ending the stranglehold of the ego, ending the focus on the ego, flipping it upside down basically, and forcing spirit into the equation. So the message is then to transform and to transmute spirit or ego into spirit and be aware of that aspect of self and proceed forward from there. It is a greater mission now that we're on, not just to survive this virus, because yeah, it's ticking up again because of Memorial Day. loosen everything up before you really can, and this is what happens. So people are going to get sick. So we're going to start to see more of that. And as fall approaches, we're going to really see a lot of it, I think. And so, we have to be smart about this, and not just be egoic and reactionary. It's unfortunate that this happened, but it's teaching us something. But the greater message of it, I think, is that we all have to be on the same page about things. That when we're not, a lot of really destructive things can happen. And I think that that's what we're seeing play out now with respect to the death of George Floyd and all of the protests surrounding this. And this isn't just happening here. The protests are happening around the world. The world has watched in horror what's happened to our country, what's happened to our government, what's happened to everything. And they're watching with such concern that now what they're seeing, it's just too much. And so they're all taking to the streets and trying to not just support our cause here, but it's a spiritual cause. All right, that's what this is. But it's also what's happening in their own countries. Vis-a-vis the treatment of immigrants and people of color and all of that. This is a widespread issue, no matter how you look at it. Whether you're talking the issues with Palestinians and that just trying to survive what's happening to them. You've got all kinds of people that are just trying to survive what's happening to them, and no one should have to live that way. And so, if George Floyd's death causes a revolution, then maybe that was George Floyd's purpose here all along. But only he knows that at this point, and blessings to him and his family for what they're going through right now. Because this is just, I'm glad that the world is supporting them now, because this has got to just be horrid for them to have to, because the video alone, it's too much. It's just too much. And the subsequent ones, we need a soul level change right now in this country. If we don't get it, then I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But at some point, it has to shift. And maybe in this 22-year, that's what's happening. So I guess what it's saying then for today is, in terms of the cards anyway, is allow for the shift of perception to the greater focus of higher self-awareness, and understand that we are one, we are one, we are one, we are one. No matter what it might look like, even though you think, I don't want to be one with that person. Trust me, I've got a few people like that in my life right now. And this is a struggle, because I know what the ultimate outcome has to be, but I don't trust any of them. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for me. But at some point, I'm not going to interfere with anything, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily going to be a part of it either, because there's just a lot of this that just I don't know, it just infuriates me. So, but again, you have to get past that and either drop resistance and not allow something, not get in the way of something, or at the very least, if you can at all try to affect change, you should. So I'm sure I'll have some part in that, but I don't think I will have as direct a part as I would have. So in any event, the rune for today is Tiwaz. And again, we're talking the spiritual warrior within, 17th rune of the Elder Futhark at 8 energy. Takes a lot, with this 8 energy with the star. It takes a lot to let go of ego and to remember who you are as spirit. It does. It takes a tremendous amount of strength. When you get to an 8 energy, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the awareness of the collective consciousness. You're talking about leadership that takes into account the needs of everybody, instead of just some dictator that, just wants to strip mine the country for his buddies who actually control him. So that's the difference in a Tiwaz, a type of spiritual warrior within, and what we have currently hiding in a bunker in the White House. We see Isa, we see Laguz forward and reversed in this, and we also see Kenaz, the light of spirit or the torch, informing the whole process, and I'll draw that out for you so you can see that. So here's Tiwaz, represents the god Tyr, or again, the spiritual warrior within. We have Kenaz. Just think the torch and the light pointing downward, informing the ego. And we have Isa, the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark, a Norn rune. Ego control, will development, contraction of will, focused will. Think ice. Think contraction. But contraction back to the point of spirit. Not that, spirit isn't massive, spirit is, but when you express into form, think of it as a funnel, and then here you are in form down at the bottom, right? And so it's basically contracting into form, a piece of itself, because it's not the whole thing. Because we're in other lifetimes all at the same time. We do this everywhere, all at the same time. The oversoul expresses out into different lifetimes. What we consider to be different lifetimes. I personally don't like to look at it that because it suggests linear time, which is simply an illusion here. When we're not informed, linear time doesn't exist, and so it's kind of weird to talk about it in a way that is actually an illusion. So, but basically, if you're going to think about it, it's just different life expressions, different experiences that we want to have. And the oversoul just expresses all of that into form. And, we do what we do. Well, here we have Pure for the geomancy rune for today, and I'll draw that out for you. Here we're still talking about little boy energy. So energy that is maybe a little willful, or it might be a little erratic. Just, how little boys are. They're just here, there, and everywhere. I raised 2 little boys, so I know this, and they are. Trust me. If you haven't, just trust me on this. Just ask your friends who have them. They're everywhere. Well, so can be little girls can be too. I was too, but the boys, they were so creative and just they were just great, and they would just do things, and you have to catch them at it. And so periodically we did. They never did too much, but there were a few things that we had to go, no, you can't do that. That's dangerous. And they just didn't know. They didn't realize. And but that's the kind of, lack of impulse control that little boys, they just get excited. They want to go play. They want to do things. They want to explore. It's that kind of energy. It's not the more adult type, the rubious energy. Even though J.K. Rowling used rubious and also let's see what was Dumbledore. There was Albus. So Albus and Rubius. Albus is the sage, and Rubius is the evil one. Okay, so that would be the adult Pure. But Pure, or rather Pure. This is the glyph. Puella, its complement, is this way, upside down. That's the little girl energy. I was a Puella. I was flighty, but maybe not as rambunctious energy as the little boy Pure energy is. So just understand that if there's a little bit of lack of impulse control today, try to keep that under control, because it could impact the path forward that we're having. So I know it's easy to react when people are beating you, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to do there. It just makes no sense what's happening. And I think that it's going to drive our progress forward, though, in the long run. And if we can get the militarization out of the police departments, if we can restructure them in a way that make them more community-based, I think that we would reestablish trust between the people and the police departments. It's no longer, I guess, anyway. I mean, I suppose, individual departments are, just that, individual. And maybe there are some where just none of this happens. It just doesn't. And if you're in one of those, that's terrific. If you have one of those in your area, you have the best, right? You don't have to fear them. You don't have to worry. They're just going to be there for you when you need them. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be doing this. And this business of not allowing their record to be known when when they clearly have problems, to allow them to stay employed, to not stop them from being employed at another police department when they get fired from one. The reason they're being fired is because they can't handle the job. You don't kick them out and kick them back into play so they can go get another one. They're just gonna visit it on another area of the country, and that's not right. So we have to really relook at this and reimagine. I know they're talking about defunding. That's really not what they're talking about. They're talking about shifting some of this money that goes into all this other kind of military hardware and all this stuff, shift it into something else that's more community-based. That's all they're saying. But you hear that defund word and people go nuts. It's just, nobody can understand the subtleties. It's like, oh my gosh, we have to just say just exactly the right word or everybody goes nutso about it. I don't understand that. And then I'm going to close. I'm going to tell you this. I did this training one time. Now, I have a degree in psychology, and so I know a little something about it. I mean, it's just a bachelor's, but I do know a little something about it, And so one of the things I know is that people have a right to express themselves. If you're uncomfortable with it, you can leave. But ultimately, people have a right to express themselves the way they want to. If it's abusive, that's another thing. But I was in this group where it was a group I don't even know what kind of a group it was. I really don't think that they even knew what they were, but it certainly wasn't achieving whatever purpose, but we were learning communication skills. We had a chapter on communication skills. And you have to use the I feel. You don't say you did this or whenever you do this or whenever, or if you're just talking in general, we might talk in generalities and say, well, when you do stuff like this, it's like, and they'll go, who? It's a general way of talking. And so you had to stop and change and say, oh no, I guess when I do this. Except that everybody in the room knew that what this person was referring to was something just about everybody does. It was a generality, and that's what she was speaking in. But it's like every time we're doing that, it's like speed bump, or brick walls. Like, no, you can't talk that way. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. Sure you can. Don't tell me how to talk. And so that's where I got, and I left the group because even though I understand the need, especially if you're having a conversation with somebody, you have to be, when you're having an issue, you have to be careful to own your own stuff and not say you. I get that, but sometimes for an ease of communication, right? We get too rigid, but right now, I don't know, maybe a little rigidity is necessary in the way that we're talking about some of this stuff that's going on. We need to understand that I think it's probably the difference in saying all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. Sure, all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter, but that's not the issue at hand right now. We're not talking about everybody getting beaten all the time. We're not talking about them putting their knee on the neck of a white person and killing them. We're not talking about that. That's not what we're seeing now. And so that cannot happen right now. So what we say matters. We have to find a way, though, to communicate in a way that we can actually talk to one another. So let's allow for some expression right now that might feel a little outrageous, because a lot of people are very, very, very upset. And at that point, we can eventually tone it down a little bit and be able to find some solutions, because we can't stay in the anger forever. At some point, we've got to get down and say, okay, come down off the platform and say, okay, now what do we do? How do we make this happen? How do we manifest this change? How do we reimagine the police departments in this country so that they're not harming people, right? So, again, understand the greater picture with it. Understand what works and what doesn't. Understand the words that work and what don't. And, if the police departments are having problems, the last thing they want to do is come out and whine about how they're being treated when we've got video after video after video of them hurting people. We had one medic tent set up, and a medic nurse was out there assisting someone who had a head injury from a rubber bullet. and the police start bombing her with pepper balls. That's the report. You got it on video. We're watching it happen. So if you don't like what we're saying about the police department, then stop doing that stuff. It's really that simple. This is about cause and effect now. It's just that for so long now, we've not had the effect, right? It's like, well, no, you can't do that. Oh, yes, we can. And not only can we're going to make sure that none of you know about it. We're not even going to let you know about it. We're not going to let you know who we are or how many reports are against us. We're not going to let you know how violent we are. That's the situation right now. And that's being changed, and they're going crazy about it. It's like, oh, no, don't reveal me. Well, sorry about that, but you know, you got a 75-year-old man in the hospital right now just trying to survive a head injury caused by a policeman. And a president that can't shut up about this event, apparently. And his press secretary who can't shut up about it. And now they're trashing the guy. No. This has been weaponized, all right? That's what's going on here. This whole thing has been weaponized. And it's been weaponized downward into the essence of ego that is so strong that the only thing we're allowed to do now is let this happen to us. Because if we don't, we're going to get in trouble for fighting back. In other words, we're supposed to take the beat down. Really? I don't think so. So again, allow perceptions to shift, go within, let the Creator imbue you with the truth of this. Know who you are and react accordingly. React from the standpoint of spirit. Understand that's what's going to carry us into the future, not the ego. So I guess that's it. That's all I have to say. But this is just a very odd time where we feel the momentum building for change, but it's in the face of such, horrific actions by people. I don't know why it takes that, but evidently it does. So that's it for today, I guess. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot for coming by. Check out the Esoteric Influences, the other video. I'm gonna look at that one first and then publish it first. And then, and again, I've been doing these again in the side panel on the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. If you want to go over there and check that out, I'd love you to do that. That's a fun place. It's a witch and herbalism blog, and so lots of fun things there. The correspondences and astrological information for today will go up. If you're someone who works magic, if you just want to check that out for the different correspondences for Wednesday, they'll be down below, but the current astrological stuff will be up above. So if you also want to incorporate that into any magical workings, that's there as well. That's what that's all about. That'll be up, and then I'll do a little checking in video just to let you all know when everything goes up. So there'll be 3 videos that go up instead of just 2, since I've split this into 2. So I'll do all that and it'll be up. So check all that out and if you'd like. And today is usually a day that I write on Medium. I'll see. I didn't do it until Friday last week. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll put something up there today. And I guess that's it. Oh, there's a Patreon account if you want to follow me over there. Links are below everything here. And I guess have a good day. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.